What's up guys? Nick here with Taco Jeep Adventures. Wanted to kind of do an intro, and you'll probably notice I'm wearing numerous outfits through these two videos, but I've got a part one and a part two to installing this C4 bumper. So part one's going to include removal of the hitch and the factory bumper. So I'll probably put a link in the description for that, but if you need to figure out how to do that phase of install for this bumper, you'll need to refer to part one. Part two, which is what we're going to go over today, is install of this bumper, right? So that's post hitch removal, post factory bumper, and removal of the taillights to get to the point at which you'll begin to install this. And if you've clicked on this, you're either thinking about the C4 bumper, which I highly recommend, it's an awesome product, or you need to figure out how to install it and you want to get the opinions of others who've gone through the process, which is a smart idea, exactly what I did. However, I found that when I went on YouTube, there wasn't detailed enough videos on there, and there's a lot of things I think that I learned a lot through the process. The directions from C4 from 2016, hardware's changed, brackets have changed, things have changed since then, and I couldn't find videos that were specific enough to capture and showcase those changes, which I have done. So I think this is, at the time of this posting, by far going to be the most detailed video for installing this bumper, and it's a pretty smooth process. It's just time consuming. So fantastic product. I've actually begun to look at some of their other products which may be coming soon. I'm pretty excited about, but really stoked with how this came out. I got it powder coated at a local shop here, and it came out really great. I mean, the table's fantastic, the swing arm. It's a really heavy duty bumper, and I'm very impressed. C4 knocked it out of the park. So hope this helps you guys. Let me know if you have any other further questions. It's pretty straightforward. The video should help a lot, but nonetheless, hope it helps, guys. All right, guys, let's see here. Pretty self-explanatory. There's a plastic piece here. You're not going to reuse it, so you break the little tab off or pry it out. Mine broke, but there's one on either side. I think there was one up top, but nonetheless, it's a little plastic cover that looks like this. Yeah, there's three. Right, so that sits under your tail light on either side, so you can see the points there. 1, 2, 3. Just pop that off. Taillight's got 3 10 mils. These little guys right here, going 2 on the bottom, right, and then 1 up top, and then you literally just pull the light straight out, and then undo your 3 harnesses here. And I'm gonna set those out of the way for now. Close this up. Shout out to Andy and Diamondback, the crew there. Thank you, keeping my water nice and cold for me here. There's a few 10 mils here. There's one up here. I don't really know. Maybe it will hold it from being able to swivel out of position, but you're going to have a clip here. You're going to have 3 here. I found it easiest to use this tool from the front while my wife pushed from the back, but you're going to have to undo this. And there's a couple down here on the bottom, 1, 2. That'll give you just enough leverage to kind of pry this over so that you can push those clips out. You're not going to be able to get them out otherwise. So she kind of squeezed from behind. I don't know if you can see that very well. The lighting's enough to see, but these get pressed in and then it kind of pops out. Now's where we measure. So it looks like we're going to measure from here down. There's 3 different measurements. I think it's 18, 17 3/4, 17 3/4. I'll verify that for you guys, but I'll get it all taped and marked up so you can see what we're working with. And as I understand it, you're going to cut across, and then there's going to be a point where you have to cut over and down or something, so I'll mark it all out so you can see it. Alright guys, so here's where we're at. There's no turning back now, that's for sure. There's a little bracket that goes from here to your bumper. I left that for last. I kept it connected down here on the actual body. Basically, I went very carefully, like 3 times, and carefully scored this, right? So that way it kind of created that groove for this to continue on. Because otherwise, you know, you're going to have the tendency for this thing to want to wander a little bit. But yeah, it wants you to cut right along this edge, which you'll see in the directions I'm including and the link in the description. So just cutting straight down here. Then it wants you to kind of like follow this line across to take this bottom piece out. So you're basically deleting above this hole right here, which I believe is where that original plastic piece under the taillight plugged into. So all that's getting cut off, which is in the picture and the directions. So nonetheless, score it, take your time, don't rush. It's very doable. And then you can clean it up, and I've got some trim that I'm going to put around this. The nice thing about the C4 bumper is it actually comes out around your factory fenders here and up a little bit. So if you follow that measurement, I think they say in their directions you've got like 1/2 inch of air room, so you'd really have to wander off track. Their measurements are super straightforward. You're going from the paint on the body of the truck where the paint meets the little plastic bed covers up here, right? So you want to put your tape in that groove and then measure to the points. I just kind of close the gap between, so not having 1, 2, 3 measurements. I actually kind of did in betweens as well to kind of keep that nice straight line. And it worked out pretty good. I know I'm gonna get potentially hammered. That's okay, I understand. You know, I'm in flip-flops, no full face shield, no guard on this, I get it. You know, I'm going nice and easy. I'm not shoving this wheel in there to have this wheel come apart on me or anything like that. So if you're gonna use one of these, you probably should use a full face shield at minimum. Safety glasses. Flip-flops are probably not the most ideal. As you can see, it's flinging all those bits at me. So anyways, hope that's helpful. I'm going to continue on, and then I'll recap a little bit more here in just a bit. Alright guys, I know I look pretty awesome. Try to contain no. So just wanted to show you real quick. Definitely going to cover up a little more today. I was pretty nasty last night and probably should be a better example for YouTube. Nonetheless, I've got this older wheel. It's not all busted up or anything. It's just slightly worn down. I find that it's easier to score it with the smaller wheel. So I'm going to start with this, and I'm basically, you can see I've got the tape all marked. I've got 18 on this side, and under this is, or along this I should say, is the other 17 3/4 measurement. So I'm happy with that line. I'm going to go along this and just allow the blade to score through the tape into the metal, right? And I'm going to slowly do that probably for like, 3 passes. So that's going to probably be half of the time right there. Then I'm going to switch to a one of my fresher regular cutting cut-off wheels, and then at the end here, these are pretty nice, and you're not gonna, I mean, these work, the grinding wheels, but if you've not seen these are a multi-purpose flat disc. It says for stripping and finishing, and you can see it's just like multi-layer sandpaper, and there's different grits you can buy. This is a 60. I've also got another 60 that's well used here. So I'll probably maybe start with this and finish with this, and that should make the edge like absolutely perfect. You can go to Ace, you can go to Harbor Freight. You know, there's plenty of areas that carry that. Wanted to go over that. So yeah, we're gonna get started. I'm gonna go ahead and get this side off, and then once it's sanded, I'm gonna go ahead and paint, let that paint cure for a little while, put some trim on it, and then it'll be time to start putting this bumper on. Let's go. Alright guys, we're all prepped. I wanted to show you what I did here. So basically, obviously taped it. I ended up cleaning the surface here where the paint's going in here. I took some 600 grit and sanded it real down all around the painted edges. I took some wipes, some alcohol prep pads, and wiped them down really good. So it's taped off. sanded, wiped down, clean surface for the painted here too. So I'm gonna go ahead and paint and let that cure for an appropriate amount of time. And then I've got some trim inside the house. This kind of trim, the kind that kind of pinches around. I think that'll be way more durable than kind of like this style. I've got this one as well, which you can find at like your auto parts store. But for this, it's gonna be upside down. Water's potentially gonna be going down there. I want something that's gonna hold on. So nonetheless, we're gonna get her painted. Wanted to show you, I ended up taping off a little bit more because I was like, you know what, I'm not gonna paint it with a brush, I'm gonna spray it. And then if you get something like this, little piece of cardboard, you know, and just put that directly in the path of where you're spraying, you're not gonna get any overspray. So that's what I did, inside and out, you know, whole outer edge down there. And then for getting inside the bed, because you're gonna wanna do that, I just flipped this and put it up against the paint. Then came in from this side and sprayed 2 passes along the inner edge. So I'm gonna let that cure for a while, and after that we're gonna get the trim on, and then it will be bumper time. Just wanted to show you that little recommendation. Boom! Would you look at that? Would you look at that? It is beautiful. Really, 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 really happy with how this came out. Obviously, I've progressed without filming. I had a couple rock crawling buddies here in the neighborhood pop over when I was out here working on it. Then we got chatting, and then it got kind of crazy, and then we had a bunch of hands, and then someone was showing up to buy an air compressor, and it was just chaotic, so apologies, but I'm still gonna walk you through it. Some valuable things here. Not a dig at C4, guys. They're great, great, great. Their service is awesome. Product is awesome. This is not the last thing I have coming from C4, by the way, but their directions are dated. They've changed some of the stuff, and I'll go over that. And a lot of, for whatever reason, the hardware they're referencing a different size than I have on my truck, and I looked back through their pictures. It was in 2016. This is a 16. Their truck had the TRD off-road 4x4 on it, so I don't understand why factory hardware they're mentioning a certain size and I'm coming up with another, but nonetheless. Couple things to note. All right, here's some tools you're gonna want. I just got some cardboard. You'll see if you follow their directions, overall they're pretty solid still, but I just want to be a little more specific. The sheet metal is right here, which if you can see has the trim, right? It was painted and then trim, if you followed my steps. On the other side of that is the bracket that they provide. Hang tight. Right there, right? Those are 2 10 mil, not 8 for the record. And there's a channel in there so it can slide in or out. I left those loose, and what that will do, I don't know if you're going to be able to see up in there, but it'll be very obvious which one goes on which side versus the other, driver versus passenger. The mount basically fits the curvature of the fender here, right? So it's going to come out and it's going to slant that way. So when you compress the 3 things together, the mount, the sheet metal, and this fender, you've got all 3 compressed. Again, I used cardboard. Say hi. Hi, YouTube. Cardboards, because I'm just like that, and I like to keep things as nice as possible. Compress all these together. Next step. Here's the drill I was using. Looks smaller than the one in their photo. I tried all different sizes or lengths, I should say. It's a 1/4 inch, but all different sizes of drill bits, lengths to get to it, and it's very tight in there, and I could not get to that hole. So I ended up using, if you've got a buddy or if you have one, use your air compressor, big air compressor with one of those air tools that had the little 90-degree bend on it, and that made very short work of it. So good luck with that. Another thing I wanted to call out is this, that connects the, all the fender to the new bracket and everything. The other bracket is 7/16. I want to show you a couple things under the truck. This is really self-explanatory as far as mounting your tow cables here. Definitely want to go over a couple things. I had to undo where the wiring harness plugs in here, and that allowed me to get enough over here to be able to plug that in. It's really, really tight, but there was no earthly way you were going to get that plugged in without undoing something. So that worked for me. Getting the bumper up in place, I've got a jack, a floor jack over there. The Pro Eagle, I ended up putting the extension on it because the truck is on 35s and 3+ inch lift here. So had someone operating that here in the middle, and then I had one of my buddies on that side. I was on this side, and what you want to do is you put this factory bracket back in. Go ahead and, I don't know, you could probably torque these down to 90 or so, or use your impact. Just make sure these are good and tight. Put these 2 bolts in first. You'll see it's kind of like an L bracket. You put these 2 in, and then when you raise the bumper up into place, the bumper doesn't have anything to do with these 2, right? You're going to start to put these in here. You'll be able to see them. This is, there's 4 inside the bracket here, and 1 up there. Now this is really important, and this was a learning curve. Those are 17s, by the way. These are the factory bolts that you take out. Make sure to see where the orientation was with those, because there's one bolt, this one in particular, which based on C4's photos, it looked like they put the shortest one there. There's 1 out of the 5 that are shorter than the others, or 1 out of the 7 if you include the 2 coming up. And so they've got it out here kind of in its own little, I don't know, maybe that's how it was from factory. I didn't pay close enough attention when I undid mine. Now, very important to note, in their pictures, they do not show an aftermarket washer. And when I started tightening these down, I was wondering like why it felt so loose. And before I knew it, the factory washer on this underneath the bolt head here was starting to dig down into the bumper. It was kind of going through, unfortunately. And what happened when I did that is I was over torquing it without knowing it, and I gummed up a couple bolts really good. Actually, from side to side, I ended up gumming up probably 3 of my bolts, which is not great, not the end of the world, but I would highly encourage. You'll see in the pack, there's these bigger washers. I went over everything. I can't fathom where else those bigger washers would go, because there's no other hardware that these would really work with. But it's not in the 2016 direction. So FYI, put those big washers on before you torque these down, and I would think 90 to 100 is plenty for the size of these bolts. You can ugga-dugga it, but I prefer using the leverage of my my bigger torque wrench there. And I can see even this one, for example, I torqued at 100. It started to bow the washer. I mean, it's not going anywhere, but I think I probably could have come down a little bit off of the torque, probably done like 90. Same thing on this side. You're just gonna mirror it there. What else? So I'm starting to put these on. They go on either side. It's pretty obvious once you play with them. I just brought both of them over here, and I'll show you. Started setting it up in the bumper. You know, the bumper slants outward. You can see here the hollow side's going to be towards the back on both of these, right? So this one is going to go in the passenger rear like so. That's going to be towards the back of the truck. And you can see here, this slanted side goes towards the inner edge of the outside part of the bumper, right? And then this flatter kind of, I would say it's the thicker side of the two, is going to go to the frame. And what you're doing is you're basically running this hardware through which is 3/8, not 1/2 inch, like the directions say, by the way. You're gonna run this through, and I'll show you where that bolts up in here. Right there, right? That's closest to the bumper. Now, obviously, those are very loose. The next step, I'm gonna tighten those down. And when I tighten those down, it's gonna pull it flush against that bumper. And then it should position this side, which is currently, hopefully you can see this, it's gonna position that flush against the frame. And once that's flush against the frame, I can come in from the back side of the support arm, and I'm gonna take my marker here. I've got bronze, it'll just be easier to see on the black, but get you a Sharpie of some sort, and you wanna mark center on that hole after you tighten down this hardware. All right, guys, got this in place. This is on the driver's side. So you can see here, I've got my hardware in place on the bumper side, and I've got that, and I've tightened it down. You can see up in there, that's better, where that kind of meets the frame. I traced the whole, like, it's not really an oval, but the whole section in there on the outer edge with my Sharpie. And I'm happy with where that sits. When I pull this down, I know I gotta hit inside those lines, and I'm good. So I'll tap that to kind of create a divot, start with a smaller bit, and work my way up. Couple things to note. That 3/8 hardware, that's gold that I showed you in the previous little clip, is 9/16. But nonetheless, you can see these are in there. That was a lot of fun. You better get an electric drill, because you're gonna be sitting here for a little bit. Get some new bits, and it should go pretty smooth, but battery powered's not gonna cut it, FYI. All right, guys, more fun. Let me break this down for you here. This is what it looks like, or should look like, when it's finished. You can see back here, there's a bag that's labeled license plate, right? And it's gonna come with all the hardware, but these two little guys in it. These are gonna be in another bag. So you're gonna see one like this, rear license plate, bracket, hardware pack, and then you're gonna see this general, well, at least that's how mine came, and it had a lot of stuff in it. And this is where I found the two little guys. So here, let's go back over here. Wanted you to see that so that I can kind of talk you through this. The size that I used for the larger ones was 3/16. That's this guy, which is gonna work with the bigger, I think these are button heads. So there's gonna be, let's see, 3 styles, or 3 button heads. You're gonna have a shorter, thinner one. It's gonna fit through here. The bigger one's not. Pretty close in length, but that's how you'll be able to figure it out. There's gonna be a plastic washer, or nylon washer, that goes in between the 2 brackets. It's gonna be very tight to get those in both sides, so you might have to, I had to pry with a flathead screwdriver to get the second one in. Get your hardware in. So kind of jumping around here, I think this was a, yeah, 4mm for the smaller guy here on the side, right? And then I used a 7/16 for the nylock nut, and there's a washer on the other side of that nut. So you're gonna tighten those down, and then you're gonna see this short little stubby guy. He's about, I don't know, yay big. Probably can't see what that looks like on the screen, but you'll see that's in the other bag, and you can tell based on the depth of the threads in this bumper, because it just threads straight in. This one wasn't gonna work. This one was too small. So yeah, I kind of just hand snugged these. Same with the others, they're nylock nuts. This is a license plate, it's not going anywhere. As you can see, the operation is pretty smooth. Guys, couple little FYIs. I came back, I looked at the directions. They actually don't call for the washer on this side of the bracket and call for it here. I don't disagree. The hardware is not the appropriate length. I added some blue Loctite on these and tightened them really good, so I'm good with that. It's not going anywhere. One thing I do want to call out, these 4, which I measured to make sure my eyeballs weren't off, are the same ones that they indicate go here. All right, so this is your handle. This is what's going to latch this to the bumper. You look in there, it's kind of dark, but there's a square plate that has welded nuts on it, right? So they're part of the bracket, and that's one of the ones that come in the bag that requires powder coat, which is obvious, it's raw steel. When you put this size, which they require, through here, through this and through the bracket, at best, maybe half of this welded nut was bit onto by the bolt. So there was literally half of the threads in that nut right there, or in all of them, that were not being utilized. So luckily I have countless projects and lots of hardware here, and found the exact thread that I needed, slightly longer length, and now you'll see mine are slightly sticking out of the welded nuts. I did Loctite these as well with some blue Loctite, given this is going to have so much use. So, you know, not griping, just FYI, I would encourage you not use this and get a slightly longer one. Next, I'm going to mount these guys on, so I'm going to figure out in this hardware, it's got to be somewhere in there, what I'm utilizing to bolt this on, and then I'll report back. I wanted you guys to see this. I've got these on, they're hand tight. That's going to allow these to move while in there. The problem is when it's in the when it's closing the bumper over there, it's going to obviously move these around, and then I'm not going to have access to tighten it while it's in place to see where it likes to live. So I'm probably, right, because this will be covered, and if you spin this, it's just going to rotate the whole thing. So may just have to tighten it. Their directions don't say. That is all come together. Now I'm going to be going to this side, and we have to grease some things. But basically, this guy, it's got threads right here, right underneath. So that's going to screw in there, and then this is what holds it all together. I believe this is going to actually be flipped around and go up like this. This is going to sit down on this side. This is going to thread, right? So I was like, where the heck's the nut? And then you look on the bumper, there's a welded nut on the bottom of that this threads directly into, and it calls for 100 foot-pound, as I understand it. All right, guys, to show you real quick, it's all greased up. It's very slick, so let me see if I can get this back out. So yeah, bearing slides over this. I've got it all nice and greased up. I pre-cleaned the inside with alcohol. You know, obviously it was that powder coat, and then it traveled in my truck, and it's been sitting in the garage for a week. So yeah, and I've got some grease in there. Here's the last thing that's going to go in. I'm going to put a little bit of grease on the inside of this, lube it up, and I'm going to tap that down into place with something softer. Probably not going to use metal. This is pretty thin. I've seen sockets used to tap these in, which may be okay, but I'm not going to do that. But this is going to go on the top. You're going to repeat the same pattern. You can see down here on the floor, there's duplicate twin pieces right there. This right here is what's going to hold it in place once that's tapped down in there. You're going to do that on both top and bottom. Then that big ass bolt is going to run straight down through the top. We're going to get it in place on the bumper, and it's going to tighten into the welded nut at 100 foot-pounds. We got them in both sides. That's about what the pictures look like. This I just hand tightened, so you can kind of start it by hand. It's got threads right here. This is what allows it to lock into place and unlock. So again, you can see on the bottom, looks just like this. One thing to note, to get that bearing seal in, I had to use a 36. All right, so the 36 socket was the ticket. That will actually allow it to slide down in into the cylinder-like side of that swing arm while maintaining appropriate contact with the bearing seal. This piece, guys, I powder coated when I took everything to powder coat. This is just a stainless piece otherwise, so you really don't have to do that. One thing to note, they show screws in the direction. There's no screws in the pack. So again, kind of guessing here, I looked over all the hardware. This is what made most sense. It was a 3/8 lock nut on the bottom. You can see it's good. It's kind of flush with the end of the nut there. And again, that's just going to allow that piece to lock in and out of here, it looks like. So I'm not too worried about whether or not that's going to come loose. I don't think it will. And then for the Allen side of it, I use the 1/8 for that little Allen. So if you go through that pack, the rear swing arm pack, the one little Allen that is 1/8 with the hardware that's 3/8, the nut should be the ticket. All the other ones didn't make sense. And again, there's no screws. So fingers crossed, guys. I'm going to keep going through as I put this together, and hopefully I'll have all the hardware needed to finish this up. So I'm going to get the swing arm in. Still got to wire up the tag light. So I've got a cut. I've just got it plugged in here, but again, you depress this here, pull that off. I'm going to cut this, get a meter to check. It looks like a green wire and a white wire with a black stripe. So just going to double check that I've got it oriented right before hooking it up, and I'll show you how I did that. And yeah, again with this, these were sitting in this, right? So I'm assuming they ordered these in bulk from somewhere. I'm not quite sure where. But again, found hardware that made most sense sitting over there. So yeah, that's how I'm gonna run it through the bumper. You'll see the tag light there. I've got it all spliced in, tested that it worked. There's gonna be a red wire on the back of this. The red goes to the green. Think Christmas. Red goes to the green on the truck. The other wire will be white with a black line. So the black is gonna go to that. Red is gonna go to green. Guys, we are about done. Got a few things to button up yet, but man, thoroughly impressed. It came out incredible. I've got quite a few steps that I really need to go through with you guys. Yeah, it's just been a tough couple days trying to knock this out and everything going on. And hopefully my GoPro doesn't die. But real quick, just to bring you up to speed, I kind of cut in 2 inches or so here and then cut off some of this excess, and you can see I kind of wrapped it around the back and cut here. Let's see what else, guys. Swing arm. Man, here, let me open this up real quick. It's got the strut, and it will open it pretty quick on you. So I just kind of got it to that first slot, and then there's even a secondary slot if you want. I would not install this prior to the swing arm. You can do that after the fact. It kind of shows that as a step prior to this, which I ended up, because of this plate that's down here, which you'll see, I ended up getting bound up, and you know, when you're holding this heavy thing and trying to tap it in with a rubber mallet, that was not fun. This can go on after the fact, so you're going to want to come in with the swing arm where it's close to the body of the truck to get around this bracket, which honestly I think you could put the bracket on even after installing this if you want. There's a thought as I'm talking out loud here, but you're going to want to hit this into place and look down through there and get it aligned. When it was out here, once I started getting it real close, I felt that bringing the leverage out away from the truck a little bit and kind of just going up and down with the swing arm allowed it to kind of wiggle into place, and I could see straight through that it was pretty spot on. And all I had to do is give this a little love tap until it got to the bottom top of this welded nut where the threads are, and then I just hand threaded it in and tightened it down to 100 pound-feet. As far as, let me pull this table down, show you guys here. This is just, you'll see this in the package, that's what holds this on, and behind this table, that bolt is, I'm assuming yeah, it feels welded. You're gonna have carriage bolts that come through to mount your swing arm. I'm assuming all are gonna opt for this if you're getting this set up. The carriage bolts are gonna come through, put washers on, and then there's a nut that has a built-in looking washer with some grooves in it. I forget the term for that specific piece of hardware. Nonetheless, I think there's 7, and you can pick where you wanna mount that. For now, I've got it here. When this is closed, I've got plenty of visibility on that tail light. I'm not gonna get rear-ended and pull over and all that good stuff, so there's that. In your pack, you're gonna have, I think this one was 5/16. It's the bigger one. Again, you're gonna kind of have to go through this hardware, see what makes sense. Some of the directions align well, some of it doesn't. This one wasn't too bad. The fun part about this is you gotta get that white plastic washer in between here and here. You're gonna have fun with that. I mean, it's, you know, these are all, this is fabrication. It's kind of Comes with the territory when you're doing these kind of projects, to be honest. So wiring of the sensors, if you've got the sensors, the backup sensors, they do allow that. You will lose your blind spot monitoring, which I may try to figure out a solution for, look into that a little further. But nonetheless, you know, I just kind of took some silicone spray on my finger and put it around the hole and just kind of slip this in. Don't force it. It will go in one way. So as you're working that around the sensor itself, you'll feel where it gives and it wants to go. Otherwise, don't force it, because you know, it's very brittle. And then I just kind of ran my wiring harness up and through. I got to zip tie it still, but I wanted to keep it as far from the ground as possible, right? You don't want to tear up your wiring out on the trail. Oh, camera relocation. I'm going to do that next, so bear with me. I'm going to show you how that's done, because that has also changed since their directions, but looks pretty straightforward. Day 4, I'm almost done. A little exhausted. Hopefully I can gather some thoughts for you here real quick. Tailgate's off, right? So you're gonna have all this hardware. You're gonna have the larger hardware on the outside. Smaller hardware is gonna come up and around, okay? When you open this, your camera's gonna be plugged in right here. It's gonna be two 10 mil bolts, one here, one here. You undo those to take that out. Well, you can undo the harness first. Take that out. Your camera will be attached to it by 2 very, very small screws. I actually have like a whole assortment of really tiny. They're probably for like optics or you know, something. And then I use some channel locks like this to hold it, because they're so small you can't with your fingers really get enough grip and torque on them. So anyways, got that to get the camera out. Camera will be right here, plugged in with a little clip. You can just squeeze it, press it through. And then right here on the back, hopefully you can see this on the back of the tailgate, there's going to be a little clip. All you got to do is pry up and it'll come off. And then if you look closely, here it is, right? It was in the tailgate like that, right? And then if you look over here, you can pry on this to open it so that you can get the wire harness out. So you're going to see things like that. And then it's going to go through right here. Same, it's going to have one of these. I just popped that off and ran the whole factory harness through there. And I did end up cutting it because it wasn't going to reach all the way to the camera, but they do provide wiring, which I'll show you. So once I cut it, I got a comfortable length. I cut it from there and I ran the factory harness, clipped it in. I'll show you how this is. There's 2 carriage bolts that come through the bracket. So factory harness, I came up and there's these little slots. You can see here cut out. So I just zip tied all the way along that, ran it up top, all the way through here, all the way up top, came through this last one onto this side, zip tied all the way down there. They've got these little welded tabs here, so I just kind of kept it along this, here, and then I go down and around through the bumper. And then there's zip tie haven back here. You know, you got all the sensors and towing electrical here. But anyways, just, you know, obviously do it over the top. You guys don't want it hanging low. That defeats the purpose of these bumpers, right? Right here is where the camera, and it, man, this whole, they did a heck of a job as far as, you know, their engineering and fabrication and all. It's really incredible. The same exact pattern that you're going to find on that plastic piece is cut out on the back of this bracket. It's only going to go one way, and that's going to be pretty obvious to you. So that goes into place. The 2 screws that you take out of the plastic piece go back into the camera as you took them out. To wrap up on fenders, you know, it's pretty solid like I showed you guys. I just kind of cut a 2-inch slit here and one here so that I could fold it around, right, the fender liner. Then I just kind of cut straight across here, and honestly, it feels pretty solid. I don't think it's going anywhere. I may end up like doing something, I don't know yet, but for now I'm good with that. 4 days, I'm pretty tired. But anyways, guys, that's it. I hope this was helpful. I've got a lot of cleanup to do and probably need to get back to being a family man, so this one is pretty much over and out. I hope this was helpful for you guys, and yeah, probably be back with another project here soon. In the meantime, take care, guys.